The topic keeps coming up regarding the NFLPA selection process for a new executive director. It's bothered me for a while now. And I've been historically very pro-union, pro-player. I've tried to understand the challenges of running a union full of players who aren't as engaged, aren't as willing to go without playing football and getting paid to play football as maybe they could be or should be. It's not an easy job. It's not an easy union to run, especially when you're dealing with the NFL and its power and its wealth and its influence. There is more of a David versus Goliath feel than there should be. Now, David ultimately won, but you get my point. The playing field has never felt even and equal to me, and this selection process for a new executive director is critical to maybe trying to make the playing field a little more even, or at least keeping it from becoming even more askew in favor of the NFL. And I think what's happened is the union is so freaked out by the possibility that the owners could try to put their thumb on the scale to influence the process, to have their chosen candidate be the one who wins, to figure out who the finalists are, to cozy up to one of them, to corrupt one of them, to transform one of them into some sort of Manchurian candidate that would then make it easier for the league to have its way with the union. I think the union's gotten so caught up in that they've lost sight of reality. I don't think the league cares. I think the league understands it doesn't matter who runs the union. As long as the rank and file are not going to go with the nuclear option ever, it doesn't matter who's in charge, because there isn't a human being out there who can convince players to go without missing games and missing checks in the name of trying to get something better for whatever's left of their career, but ultimately for everyone else who is still to come. So I think the union's obsession with secrecy is unrealistic, because I don't think, and I've heard this, now it could be that that's what the league would say, but I've heard they just don't care. They are content to deal with whoever the executive director is because the system is already stacked in their favor. The owners will go without a year of football without batting an eye. The players won't go without a football for a week. They just won't. We saw it in 2011. At the end of the day, the players caved and took the NFL's financial offer so they wouldn't miss game checks, so they wouldn't miss games. With all that said, this obsession with secrecy has created a situation where the union has to be careful not to violate its own constitution. Ben Fisher of Sports Business Journal reported last Thursday that there'll be a new executive director by this Thursday, June 29. Since then, he's tweeted there's a provision in the Constitution that says the selection committee, when they're looking for a new executive director, must identify no fewer than 2 and no more than 4 candidates to the player representatives, the 1 player representative per team. Those must be disclosed at least 30 days before the vote is taken on who the next executive director will be. The player representatives are in the dark. The player representatives don't know, unless they know and they're lying to their constituents about knowing. Because as we reported over the weekend, players are trying to find out what's going on, and the player representatives are saying, we don't know. Unless they all know and they've taken a complete and total vow of secrecy, they do know, and they have known. I think it's impossible, though, to hold that together. 32 player representatives informed as to who the finalists are, but not saying anything to anyone, including the men who voted for them to be player representatives. That's a tough one for me to accept, just given the way that human beings operate, because one of those 32 people is going to tell somebody. They're going to tell a player. They're going to tell an agent. They're going to tell someone in the media. They're going to tell a friend. Somehow, some way, that name is going to come out. Those names are going to come out. At least 2, no more than 4. So I don't know what's going on. And I asked the union earlier today. I contacted their PR, and I'm just checking now to see if I've heard anything back. I have not. I don't expect to. They don't want to tell anybody anything. At some point, you got to tell people something. Under your own constitution, unless you're going to violate it, you've got to tell the Board of Player Representatives, 32 representatives of the players on their teams who these candidates are. And there is a public interest in this. Those of us who are stakeholders in the game want there to be an effective union to counter the things the NFL will try to do, because we don't want the stage set for a lockout or a strike. We don't want the players to get so riled up that they will go a year without football. We want football, and we want there to be a healthy balance between labor and management. And that's why I think, for the same reason we would be interested in knowing who the finalists for the commissioner's job would be, we have an interest in knowing who the finalists for the executive director job will be or are. And it occurred to me last night, okay, so they violate, let's say hypothetically, this is all hypothetical. They violate the Constitution by not disclosing the names of the finalists for the executive director job at least 30 days before the vote. So what happens next? Who has standing to sue if there would be litigation over this? I look at it this way. If all of the player representatives are fine with it, and the players are fine with it, who's going to do anything about it? Who's going to fight it? And if anyone was inclined to fight it later, wouldn't they already be fighting it now? Wouldn't they be saying, I'm a player representative, and I think it's bullcrap that they haven't disclosed the names of these finalists for executive director when the vote's coming up next week? It's just a weird situation. And I understand why the union is taking the approach, but I think it's unrealistic. And I think at a certain point, it's counterproductive because it creates the impression that someone is up to something, that someone's trying to pull an inside job. I'm not saying that that's what's happening, but with extreme secrecy, it invites speculation that someone is trying to rig this thing in their favor, and they don't want anyone to get in the way of it. They don't want us meddling teenagers to try to do anything about it. We'll see. We'll continue to follow it. I'll continue to press for answers. I think we're entitled to know who the candidates are. We're entitled to vet them as the media. They've been vetted by the selection committee. The media needs to have an opportunity to look into who these candidates are and who would be the best. And we're allowed to chime in. And the players can either be influenced by what we have to say or not. And they can worry about the NFL trying to put their thumb on the scale or not. But all of this happening in darkness is good for no one. And again, even if it undermines what I have managed to maintain with the union, a healthy, respectful, productive relationship, if it undermines it, it's not my problem, because I'm not the one that's potentially violating the terms of my own Constitution and trying to do a very important piece of business in complete and total silence and secrecy.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.